Welcome everybody to our webinar tonight. It is a pleasure to have you guys connecting for this webinar that we've entitled Working for FIFA and UEFA Events. Tonight we will be joined by Andrei Angelescu, who you see on screen, and also Xavi from the SBI team, so you can see their cameras on. So what I'll do, gentlemen, is I'll briefly introduce myself and then I'll turn it over to you guys if you want to give us a little bit of an introduction tonight and we can get moving forward. So just to start, my name is Diego Valdez. I'm the director at the Sports Business Institute Barcelona. So for those of you that may not know about our institute, what we do is we provide online training programs for those that want to start, advance, or develop their career in the business side of sport. And we are based in Barcelona, do mostly online courses, but we also have some face-to-face sessions. And we are joined tonight by, in fact, a couple of members of the SBI community. So we have Andrei Angelescu and Xavi Bove. So Andrei, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. Hello, Diego. Thank you for the invite. It's a privilege to join you tonight, you and Xavi. And yeah, I hope you can hear me properly, and it's a great pleasure to join you tonight.
We're looking forward to hearing more from you. Of course, as I mentioned, Xavi is also joining us for the session tonight. So Xavi, welcome to tonight's webinar.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you, Andrei, and thank you everyone for being here. As Diego mentioned, I am part of the SBI team, helping to grow the SBI community and family. And I'm also involved in other projects, especially in women's football. And as I've also been part of UEFA and FIFA events, I also wanted to be here to try to add the most value, and also looking forward to hearing what Andrei has to share with us.
Excellent, thank you, Xavi. It's going to be a really interesting discussion tonight because what the way we've structured this webinar, it's an intimate webinar for you guys that are connecting, because we want to turn it over to your questions. We want you to engage with us and let us know how can we help you, or what advice can we provide based on the experience we've had in the industry. So this is all about you guys tonight. So of course, joined by Andrei and Xavi, we're going to have a very interesting discussion. Before we move forward, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear us. So if you just want to type in the chat box where you're connecting from, that'll tell us two things. Number one, that you can hear us properly. And secondly, we're also very interested to hearing where you guys are connecting from. So if you want to take just a couple seconds to put in the chat box where you're connecting from. And while you do that, I will also mention that tonight we have Ayman from the team who is live tweeting this webinar. So Ayman is going to be posting some tweets through the SBI Twitter account. So be sure to engage through our Twitter, which is at SBI_Barcelona, and Ayman is going to be looking out for some of your tweets. So really good to see everybody coming in and engaging through us through the webinar and through obviously the social media platforms. So we have Max from Manchester. Welcome, Max. Amadou from Montreal. Excellent. Cape Town. Sean. Nice to see you, Sean. Armin from Jordan. Wow. So a nice varied audience from different parts of the world. Loughborough. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Suharto. Excellent. So Ioana from Romania. Okay, it looks like we're getting the sound working properly. We have Mats from Colorado, Joao Varela from Barcelona, Dragos from Southampton, Marseille, France, Osama, and Marco from Italy. Okay, well, the list goes on, so we have the sound coming through, which is great. So welcome on board, everybody. Just to give you an overview, and I don't mean to delay with these housekeeping details too long because we want to get straight into the material at hand, but just to let you know how we're going to structure the webinar tonight. We will we have prepared a few questions for Andrei that we will pose to him at the beginning. But then what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for you guys, for your questions. So be sure to stay on till the end, because that'll give you an opportunity to ask questions to Andrei, to Xavi, to myself, and we'll have a nice conversation as to how you can advance a career in the business side of sport, and particularly at FIFA and UEFA events, which is what Andrei has specialized in the past couple of years. In the meantime, in between those questions, we will also inform you of a couple of courses that are coming up for SBI. So those that may be interested in knowing more about what we do and the courses that we run, we're going to have a short section right between the Q&A and the moderated questions. So that said, Xavi, I'll turn it over to you to begin tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Diego. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to see so many countries among our students. So happy to see that. We would like to start, Andrei, knowing a little bit more about your background, about your first steps, and if you could share with us a little bit of those initial steps into the football industry, I think will be very interesting.
Okay, so my name is Andrei Angelescu. I come from Romania, and I've always been really passionate about sport, and especially about football. And I knew this from a really young age, but it took me a little bit to understand that my role in the industry might have not been as an athlete, but because I was also into business and marketing, I decided to combine two passions, marketing and business, and football, and that resulted in building a career in sport marketing and in sport business. I graduated recently from University of Southampton, and in the past I had roles with companies such as London Sport in the UK. I was at the Women's World Cup in the accreditation team last summer, and at the moment I'm part of Romania's LOS for Euro 2020, so I'm part of the organizing team for UEFA EURO 2020, and at the same time we're lucky enough to have the final draw for the Euro 2020 here in Bucharest next week, and I'm also part of the team that is putting that together. So really exciting times for me, I think, and it's a pleasure to see one of my dreams that I had as a child, to be involved in one of the major tournaments, at least as a spectator, but now I'm really close to being part of one as an organizer, which is a lot more maybe than I dreamed of.
Excellent, Andrei. I think that you are a very good example of someone young and also very passion-driven and also very active in order to reach your goals. And despite the fact that you said that you have recently graduated, you already are accumulating experiences in such top events. I would like to ask you if there are maybe there's any relevant step or big decisions that you made in the early days that made you go towards the sports business industry. In my case, for instance, I remember that I read a book called Show Me the Money, written by Esteban Calzada, which is a sports marketing Bible. And then I discovered that sports and marketing, they had a connection. So I would like to ask you if there were any relevant steps or big decisions that you made that made you go towards the sports industry.
I think a really important thing to mention is that in sports, I believe, especially in sport business, is never too early to start. So when I was 14, probably, I started to attend the games of my local team. I come from a small town in Romania, and the coverage that the press was doing for those matches was limited. And I identified some websites that were covering the league that my local club was playing in. So I wrote them, and by getting in touch with them, I managed to become a journalist for them and to attend the games and take post-match reactions from the players and the coaches. And even if I was really, really young, it was a really good experience, and it made me comfortable to speak to the players, to coaches, and it made me better understand how everything works, even if it was a quite basic level in the third and fourth Romanian league. And after that, I think it's always really good to be quite brave. I left my home country to go to study abroad, and that was a big step for me. And I picked UK, and one of the reasons was the quality of sport and football generally. And I think another defining moment for me was that I had an internship, a role at London Sport, where I worked for 14 months. And because London Sport is a company that is focused more on the grassroots side of the phenomenon and of sport, it taught me that there is so much more outside elite football, and I think everyone deserves a chance to be active, and we as individuals can play a massive role in that. And with the developments that the digital world is seeing, and I think with so many people suffering from different illnesses that might be prevented by practicing and doing physical activity and sport, I think we have a major role that we can play to make people more active and influencing their lives for better. I think these are two of the defining moments that influenced my career so far.
Thank you, Andrei. I think that's very interesting. And you also mentioned that you touched upon a wide variety of tasks and also responsibilities, which I think it leads us to the next chapter about skills, where I think that Diego, you would like to introduce a new topic to discuss.
Yeah, Andrei, this is an interesting subject because I know a lot of people that are listening tonight and those that will be catching the recording. They're wondering, well, what skills do I need to have? How do I prepare myself for a career in the business side of sport? And obviously seeing someone like yourself, who you've just told us that you were very proactive at the beginning and you were going to your local football club as a journalist, and from there you started growing and developing and seeing more opportunities. And now, as you've talked to us already, you've had the opportunity to work for a couple of major events, such as the Women's World Cup, and now looking ahead for the Euros in 2020. So what are some of the skills that you think are important to have to work in the business side of sport, and particularly at these events that that you've had the opportunity to be involved with?
I think because the level is quite high, if we speak about major tournaments, about women's and men European championships and World Cups, I think FIFA and UEFA are looking for a track level of success in some way, either, I don't know, in other sports or smaller events that you might have been involved in. But other than that, another good way to get yourself noticed, I think, is volunteering, because that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm part of the volunteer management team in Bucharest for Euro 2020, and it's an amazing opportunity to get involved in a major event. You can put it on your CV by doing this, and I think it's a great entry point for anyone interested to start a career in sport, and for anyone who would like to work for a major tournament. It's a great opportunity, and especially next year, because the UEFA EURO 2020 will take place in 12 countries across Europe. That means that a lot of people will have a chance to be involved. I know that every city will be recruiting around 1,000 volunteers, and it's really interesting to see at the same time the mix of the people that apply, because not everyone applies for football, but and they simply like to volunteer. They see it as a big part of their lives. But at the same time, you get other people who get involved because they're really passionate about football. They want to get experience in it. And then they might even progress to paid roles and being involved in other competitions after that. And as a quality that FIFA and UEFA are looking, from what I've seen, is a really good problem solving. I think when you organize a major football event like this, you will always have unforeseen situations that will come up, and you need great people, people that are able to solve problems really quickly and efficiently, and that don't get panicked when they need to face something that's quite unexpected.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting because you know, just as an anecdote, we run several courses here at SBI, and we have different speakers that come and deliver master classes for our students. And one of the speakers that we normally have is Marius Christodoulou, who works as the Stadium and Operations Manager at Apoel football club based out of Cyprus. And one of the things he shared with us in one of his master classes was that he actually volunteered for the final of the UEFA Champions League, I think it was last year. And he said, even though I'm already working at a football club, and he loves Apoel because this is the club that he's supported since he was a kid, and he says, I'm in my dream job, but I know that volunteering gives me the opportunity, number one, to learn more, to see how UEFA events are run, to make connections, to make friendships. So it really does go a long way to volunteer. And now that you're involved with, you know, recruiting volunteers for Euro 2020, I think what you've said is very interesting about some of the skills, including, you know, problem solving. So in fact, that leads us to the next point, which is your current role at UEFA Euro. So Xavi, you if you want to take over here and ask Andre.
Absolutely, I think that the task and the role that Andrei is developing is more interesting. He comes from being a volunteer at the FIFA Women's World Cup, and now at the next 2020 UEFA Euro, he's in charge, right, of organizing and recruiting the volunteering team. So, Andrei, if you wanted to share with us a little bit of your tasks, more defined and concrete tasks that you develop, I think that maybe we could grasp a little bit more in depth what you do, and also knowing what a team like yours do in such a big event as the UEFA Euro.
Okay, so at the moment I'm part of a team of 4, which is led by a volunteers manager here in Bucharest, and we have one coordinator and 2 assistants. And I think you can't really see that as an hierarchy, but it's more like a team, because we share the tasks that we get involved in, and if one of us can't be covering something, the others will look after it. And that's really good because you get the chance to be involved in the whole process and understand it really well. And I think UEFA events like Euro are organized in 24 departments, and we are recruiting volunteers for each one of these. So I think the volunteering project, which is one of the 24, is really interesting because you get a chance to understand all of the other projects and their needs, because you will recruit volunteers for them. And because of that, it's I think a great opportunity to understand how a major event is run. And at the same time, I think I really like my role because I get a chance to meet a lot of people. I'm involved in the recruitment process at all steps. So I've run through the applications. I did a lot of interviews with people from all over the world. We had people applying to be volunteers here for the Euros from 4 continents, and the quality of the people and their motivation is really, really impressive, and it makes me feel really good at the end of every day, I must say. And I think next year is going to be really, really great, because Romania doesn't have a great history of volunteering in first place, and especially volunteering in the sports sector. So for us, it was a bit of a challenge to make people apply and showcase the value of such a big project like UEFA Euro 2020. But at the end of the day, it's really rewarding, and I feel like we are gonna leave a big legacy for Romania, and this tournament is gonna make a lasting impact on the whole of the country and on the whole of the sport industry here in Romania.
I believe, Andrei, that that's the beautiful part of the game, having the opportunity to leave a legacy and to make an impact what you wanted to make, in this case, Romania. You mentioned that you're collaborating with different departments up to 22, also meeting a lot of people and top quality people as well, and top professionals. What do you think, Andrei, that this network that you're building in these big events as the FIFA Women's World Cup and the Euro 2020, how do you think this network can help you in the future to advance your career in the sports industry?
I think that networking is one of the main things that can make you advance in your career. For example, I remember one of the webinars that SBI did with Marius that Diego was speaking about earlier, and I think that was one of my favorite that you guys did, and it was really insightful, and I used a lot of the information. And after that, I actually messaged Marius because I was really interested to keep in touch with him. And when I was in London, his club played against Tottenham Hotspur, so I had a chance to go and meet him with some other members of the SBI family, as you, Xavi, were referring to the SBA community earlier, and I think that's very fair because it's like a big family. And it was really, really cool to go to the hotel of the club where Apoel was staying in London and see the players and meet a person with the expertise of Marius. It was amazing. And moving on, I think all the people that work for FIFA and UEFA events are great professionals. They have a lot of experience with sport events, and I believe that you can learn something from every single one of them. And actually, I think if you do a good job, you have really good chances to stand out of the crowd, and you never know what might happen. For example, in my case, my manager from Nice, from the Women's World Cup, the venue accreditation manager, was quite happy with my role there and the job I did, and he contacted one of the other volunteer managers, part of the Euro 2020 team, and she spoke to the volunteer manager in Bucharest, and she gave me a referral for my current role. So that mattered a lot, I think. And I know that when I interviewed for my current position, my manager spoke to some of my former colleagues to check if they were happy with my performance so far, and they wanted to check what kind of person I am. And what they said was quite positive, and I think that's why it's really important to try to be as positive as you can and maintain good relationships with the people that you meet, because you never know where we have an expression in Romanian where the rabbit might jump off.
These examples, Andrei, I believe are very valuable because not only you have the opportunity to make these contacts that can lead you to more opportunities, as in this case, but also that you have the opportunity to show your work, to show the quality of your work and how you perform in under stress conditions, and also, as you mentioned, in problem solving. And this is also what forms a community, a family. And I think that at SBI, I think also the family that you found, as well as meeting Marius, that you later on met him in London. So I think that Diego, maybe here is where we can also stress the value of a community, a thriving sports business.
Yeah, Andrei, one of the things we wanted to discuss here, as Xavi was saying, is that you know, at SBI, one of the objectives that we've always had is to create this family, to create this community, to have people connect and engage. You mentioned, of course, that you finished your university studies, but even before that, you did a course with us at SBI a while back ago, and we've been in touch ever since. And look at us now, you know, doing this webinar, and Xavi, who's also a member of the SBI family. So here we are, sort of connecting the dots several years after that. So just wanted to see if you wanted to share what were some of your experiences of studying the football marketing and management course you did with us a while back ago, and how you leveraged what you learned, not just through SBI, but education in general to get ahead in the industry.
I think that, as you said, SBI is putting you in a great position from a networking point of view. And I remember back in the day when I was doing the football management and marketing course with you guys, I had a quite nice cohort that I was interacting with every week at the courses. And with some of the people that I was in the group with, I managed to even meet in person, which was absolutely great. But at the same time, your experience will not only limit to the people that you're in the same group with for your course, but you get access to the whole network. And as I said, based on my interactions with SBI, I managed to meet Marius in London, which was an amazing experience. I spoke several times with Xavi, and he has helped me with one of my research projects that I did for my bachelor's degree studies. I also met David Haimovich in London as well, who is a great guy and a great person to speak to about football, and he had some interesting roles with Tottenham Hotspur's women's team and also with SoccerX now. So I think the value of the network is undoubtable, undebatable. And on the top of that, I'd also mention your course back in the day, again, for me was an excellent competitive advantage when I was applying for roles in the sport industry, because I did some volunteering back in Romania, and I had some experience at different companies. At the time when I was doing the course, I was doing an internship, which is not in the sport industry, and I was actually using the money I was earning back then to pay the course. I think when I interviewed for my role at London Sport, I think the manager that was interviewing me back then was really impressed that I went above and beyond most of the people she interviewed before. And even if I was not studying a sports degree, I compensated with the value of the course that I did. And even if it was focused on football mainly, a lot of the information was transferable across all the sports sector. So I think it made a big difference for me, and it's probably one of the best decisions that I've made.
That's good to hear, Andrei. That makes us feel like our objective is being met, which is helping those that are either starting or advancing or developing their career in the business side of sports. So nice to hear that the course provided value to you, and it's great to see that you've moved into a career into the business side of sport, and like we talked about just now, working for major events. So what we can do at this stage is we'll turn it over for your questions, because we want to make this an engaging session. So you have the chat option there. Feel free to type your questions in the chat. Like we said, we also have Ayman from the team who is monitoring Twitter. Our Twitter is SBI_Barcelona. So if you want to send some questions there, and if you want to put them in the chat box, what we'll do is we'll start finding some of those questions there and posing them to Andrei, and getting, of course, the input from Xavi as well. So go ahead and type those in, and in the meantime, while you start thinking about them, before that, I saw that Peter Dare, I think you wanted to ask something, or you raised a flag. So if you want to type your question in the chat box, Peter, that's probably the best way to go about it. And while we wait for some questions, what I'll do is I'll just briefly speak about some of the courses that we have coming up for SBI, and in the meantime, that'll give you guys an opportunity to ask your questions. So we have a couple of courses that are coming up shortly. One of them is the Football Digital Marketing and Social Media online course starting on November 25th. So that's coming up very soon. This is a course that is online, and essentially it provides you an opportunity to understand the business side of football from a digital standpoint, because as we all know, digital is such an important element of the industry today. So this course has actually been designed to provide you information specific on how you can get ahead in digital and social, creating an online brand, CRM, data analytics, fan engagement. So it looks at the entire digital ecosystem, which of course we know now encompasses the entire industry. So that's one of the programs that we have coming up. And then in January, we have the Football Marketing and Management course, which Andrei talked about before, that he did this course a while back ago. So this starts in January, end of January. And in a way, it's a course more focused on looking at all of the business areas of the business of sport. So whether we talk about marketing or sponsorship, event management, player representation, there's many subjects that we cover. These courses are 8 weeks, so they're 8 weeks long, and they're online, but they have live tutorials, and we use a platform to engage, which is this Fuse platform that we're connecting on tonight. Okay, so let's see if we have a question here, Andrei, that we can talk to you about from our audience. Before that, just you see here on screen, these are some of the organizations that we've worked with and we've collaborated with. So we talked about the network before. This is an advantage that you have when you join these types of programs, that you're studying not just on your own, but you're engaging with people that many times come from these types of organizations. The courses that we deliver attract professionals and organizations from some of the clubs and governing bodies and other organizations that you see here on screen. But that said, let's focus it back to the questions of the audience. And we have a question from Christian. And Christian, thank you for your question. He says, what has been the biggest challenge you faced when starting in the sports industry,
Andrei? I think it's always really hard to start anything, and you might face rejection from some of the roles that you apply for, or you might struggle to get in contact with people in sport industry, because in this industry, I believe most of the people are really busy all the time, so you must have a really good reason to speak to them, otherwise it's really hard to. And I think at the beginning it was that, dealing with rejection and maybe finding it a little bit difficult to speak with certain people that I was trying to get in touch with, so that I get advice from them or other things like this.
Interesting. And Xavi, what would you add, because you obviously work with a lot of people that, you provide services and you consult and you help. So what are some of the key factors that you would say are important to consider when you're starting a career in the sports industry?
I totally agree with what Andrei said. I would like to add that also being specific about what you can add to the sports property is also very important, because many times we present ourselves as sports marketeers or professionals in the sports business industry, but then stakeholders, they are made up of departments in terms of social media, communications, ticketing, accreditations, merchandising, and they're looking for solutions to solve their problems. So I think that it's important also to present ourselves as professionals with a specialization, with going to an specific area where we can add value, and then sustaining that value with education and also experience. So I think that that's another challenge, that we need to go from general to being specific.
Yeah, good point. Good points. No, very interesting. We have Mustafa Tarek, who's raised his flag. So Mustafa, we're going to try something, and I'm going to see if this works. So we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to unmute your microphone, and hopefully if you can pose your question directly to us, then we'll be able to hear you. So we're going to give this a shot and see if it works. So Mustafa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mustafa, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. It's a astonishing conversation. I'm really happy to be here today to be a part of this session. I'm gonna directly to my question. I just want to ask how can I move forward to the next step to work directly with UEFA or FIFA in the events. Hence, I was working or included in a major events such as the World Cup 2018 in Russia and Champions League Madrid 2019. But I fed up from just volunteering. I mean, it's a very interesting experience for me, also included in Euro 2020 in Rome, but I want to be directly there, you know.
Okay, that's a great question. So Andrei.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question, Mustafa. Thank you a lot for that and for following us tonight. I believe that it might be, I think that's one of the hard steps that you need to make from volunteering to getting a job maybe at a final tournament. For myself, I think what worked best was networking and trying to keep in touch with the people that I worked with previously in my volunteer roles. I think not just with the people that you worked with in your volunteering, but also with other people that you find online that you think they could be good role models for you and that inspire you to be like good leaders. I think they might, if you make them believe in you, they might give you a chance. And I think that's all you need. If you're really hardworking and motivated, all you need is one shot, and then a lot more can happen from that. So try to, I don't know, step out a little bit of your comfort zone and try to get in touch with people that are at the moment where you want to be in a year's time or even more, and maybe they can help you to get a role. I don't know, Xavi, do you have an answer to this question?
I think, Andrei, that what you mentioned is the key point about networking. I would also like to add 3 quick points. The first one is to know the key decision makers in each tournament. If it's the LOC, for instance, the local organizing committee, or maybe the tournament's manager from UEFA or from FIFA, trying to reach that specific person, maybe through LinkedIn, and trying to go to the people that are recruiting these professionals. On the other hand, I also would say that presenting yourself with a proposal could be very useful, not just sending the CV, but sending a proposal regarding the area you're applying. That could be something that would differentiate yourself and would add value in terms of hiring you for the event. And I think that being different is what makes people hire you. So I would work on that. And I think that what Andrei mentioned, networking in this case, and also what could work as well is to ask these people what they need in order to hire someone. For instance, people you met at volunteering at, you mentioned the UEFA Champions League final with Real Madrid or the World Cup. You know now have these networks, so asking them for recommendations or asking them what would you need in order to get hired at the next event, that's something that could work.
Those are some great points, and one thing that I would add as well to the great advice that we've heard from Andrei and Xavi as well is that sometimes it's also interesting to look at the entire journey, because we may say, well, I want to work for FIFA or UEFA, and that could be the obviously the end objective that one may have in mind. But there's also other areas that one can begin to build and step into. So maybe an opportunity would be to say, well, my objective is to work, and you set yourself as a long-term goal. Well, I want to work in UEFA in the events team at such and such a time. But in the meantime, I'm going to have some stepping stones, and I'm going to start working where I'm based, or what somewhere in an organization that perhaps is closer to where you're at, to gain some experience, to build that network. So I think that's also something to consider as well. That and we've seen it. I know from my own personal experience and from a lot of the people that we talk to and their career journey. It's a culmination of steps, and eventually those that put in the hard work and the effort usually see the return. But obviously the points that we've discussed here, I think a culmination of a bit of everything can definitely help in in pointing you towards where you want to be, right? So does that help, Mustafa, in providing you a little bit more insight?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's very helpful. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for your info. I have took notes for everything that you said right now. I'm going to work on this, and hopefully soon I will achieve my dream.
Excellent, Mustafa. So we look forward to remaining in touch with you, and thank you for your great question, which I'm sure a lot of people will take a lot of value out of that. So thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you so much.
We have Peter. I think we have Peter there as well. So, but I don't see Peter's audio. So Peter, if you want to type your question, we will look at it in the chat box. So in the meantime, let's see if we can see a few more questions. Well, we have Lorenzo Sorteni. So Lorenzo says, which are the benefits to work for UEFA and FIFA compared to a soccer club? Okay, so that's an interesting question. What are some of the differences working for a governing body such as UEFA or FIFA, or even working at events that these organizations run, compared to, say, working at a soccer club? So Andrei, any thoughts on that?
I must admit that my experience in working with football clubs is quite limited. I only worked for one, and it was a club in Romania in the lower divisions. So that was a long time ago, and I couldn't take a big amount of insight from that. But from what I heard and from what I know so far, I think the environment around major football events is more dynamic. I think the roles might be a little bit more demanding, and because of that, because of the whole dynamic and the fact that the tournaments don't last forever, you see people working on quite short contracts. For example, for Euro 2020, we will have a local organizing structure team here in Bucharest, and at the moment, I think in that team we only have around 15 people, maybe less, and the most of the rest of the people who will join the team, to get the numbers up to 80 maybe, something like that, will join starting with April next year, May maybe. So they will only work on the tournament for a couple of months or 3 months, something like that. So I think that's a big difference. And when it comes to the insights you can get, I think working for a company such as UEFA, you get very, very valuable insights from the inside. We have a platform called Bridge, UEFA Bridge, where the people put resources together, and you can read and learn about any aspect of organizing a major sport event, and all the people in the organizing team have access to this. So the resources are invaluable, and I don't know, I think it's really hard to reach that level of detail and that level of insight somewhere else if you don't work for one of these two organizations.
That's a good point, and that's a great question as well. So let's see if we can get Lorenzo's audio, just to try and see if Lorenzo can share a little bit more about his background. So Lorenzo, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Hopefully we can hear you, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about where you're at in your current path. So let's give that a shot. So can you hear me, Lorenzo?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes, welcome.
Okay. Hi. I'm Lorenzo Sorteni. I'm an Italian guy. I studied at Bocconi University for 3 years in management, bachelor degree in management. And now I'm at Cage University in Marseille to do a ISEM, International Sport and Event Management master. Yeah, I'm two.
Fantastic. And Lorenzo, what would be your dream job? What would you like to do in the industry?
I would like to work in soccer for sure. Yeah, and or in a football federation like UEFA or FIFA. Or also, I would like to work for a soccer club. It doesn't matter to me where I would like to work for a soccer club. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Now, maybe we can bring in Xavi here as well, because Xavi started off his career working for a soccer club. So, Xavi, what were your experiences or your takeaways working for a soccer club here in Spain?
Thank you, Diego. Well, first of all, I'm being a little bit specific with Lorenzo, that he is in Milano. I would say that he's at a spot at the country. He has FIFA and UEFA headquarters very close. So I would recommend him to go there to meet someone and I mean, just reach them over LinkedIn and try to meet with maybe professionals from the events side. And that could be very helpful. Also in Italy, you have different top sports events. Despite of football, you have Formula One, also MotoGP, that can give you also experience to go from the sports business side to football. And regarding your question, I think that big events as, for instance, the UEFA EURO, I worked the UEFA Women's Euro in the Netherlands in 2017 in the marketing team. And I think that when you work at a big event, it's about delivering a big show, a big experience. And when you work at a club, and I worked at a Spanish club, a second division, your job is to develop a long-term relationship with fans, to provide value to fans, and to build an impact that can go beyond one season, for instance. I think that this is the main difference. Also, the task that you do at a club, you have more flexibility to touch and to be part of different departments and initiatives, whereas the big event, you're usually inside a specific department and you have to do very well that the task. And obviously, for instance, when I worked at the UEFA Women's Euro, I was at the marketing team. Inside the marketing team, there were different areas such as sponsorship or the youth programs or, for instance, branding. But when you work at a club, you can participate in a wide range of activities. So I would say that both of them are great. Also, at an event, a big event, you live and breathe the top football and the top level of sports that then you can apply to your domestic competitions. So I think that both of them are very recommendable and they have these differences. So, and in your case, being there in Italy, and this is a piece of advice for everyone, if you have the chance, go and visit the federation or go and visit the confederation you have closest, and you can build network and opportunities by just being there. It's something that not many people do. For instance, this week I'm traveling to Madrid to meet people from the federation, the Spanish federation, and this is something that I used to do, as I did also in Zurich, meeting people from FIFA. So I think that that's another differentiation point that it can value at the beginning of your journey.
Thank you very much. I added you on LinkedIn. Andrei and Xavi added me today. Diego is missing. This is the missing one.
Perfect. No, we're looking forward to connecting with you, Lorenzo. Thanks for your question. Best of luck. Anything you need from us, you know we're here and happy to help in any manner.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lorenzo. That's a great question by Lorenzo. I would just add something that came to mind as Lorenzo was telling us about his experience and his studies. We had a student do a program with us a couple of years ago. His name was Jerónimo. He is from Chile, but he was living in France. He was living in, I think it was outside of Paris. Anyway, what he did, and this is really interesting, is he really wanted to work for FIFA or UEFA. So what he did is he took his CV, but he documented his journey, because what he did is he rode his bike, I believe from, I don't know if it was Paris. I think Paris is too far away now thinking about it. But anyway, he was living somewhere in France, and he was biking down, and he took his CV to FIFA. So obviously he took the train in some parts and he took his bike. But anyway, he documented his journey, and he showed the beginning until the end when he was delivering his CV to FIFA. And they opened the door for him, and they actually allowed him to have an interview with, at the time, the vice president. I think it was the vice president of FIFA. And they said, well, if there's an opportunity that comes up, we'll definitely let you know. Anyway, but he documented this. He made it to the papers in France and in Chile. So he made noise with this approach. In the end, that didn't turn out for him at FIFA. But about a year later, I got a message from him, and he said, oh, I just wanted to inform you I've been hired by the digital team at UEFA. So it just goes to show that being proactive and really pushing and going for your objective and working hard, here's a guy who went and thought out of the box, documented his journey, put it on YouTube, and it didn't work out for him in the first time. I mean, he didn't get the job at FIFA, which is where he was handing in his CV, but he kept, working at it. He did our course, he did other stuff, he volunteered, and one of the best things that we get from time to time from our students is when they tell us, hey, you know what? I'm working where I really have been dreaming for all my life. So, he's now working for the digital team at UEFA. So, goes to show that being proactive, and Andrei, you talked about this with the volunteering teams, right? How important it is to be proactive when, not just when you're applying for one of these roles, but also while you're performing and executing during the time you're at these events.
Yeah, I'm sure that this would make a massive difference, or at least it did for me, because you might have cases when I don't know, a task might not be on your job description, but someone asks you to make it, and if you're proactive and you get involved and you show people that you care about what you do and about the success of the event, you might end up in a really good position, I think, at the end of the day, and the people will have a great impression about you. And I think back in the day, Xavi was saying in one of his webinars that that was the case for him as well at the Women's EURO in the Netherlands. Is that right?
Absolutely, Andrei. I think that, especially in football, many times you see the same people doing like the top level activities, but then you have to make things happen, and that means, for instance, at the Euro, if I don't know, there's something that needed to be transported from one place to another, you have to do it because you are there for the final experience of the fan, and this is something that I think that we also have to bear in mind, that people that they are at the top executive level, they are also doing activities that maybe we would think that they correspond to lower levels. But in the end, the good thing is that if we are part of the 360 chain of football, we have the opportunity to ensure that the quality is the top, and that gives us also the opportunity to learn how to be flexible. And for me, productivity is something very important. I believe that when I met Diego many years ago, one of the most valuable pieces of advice that he gave me was to contact and to reach sports properties as clubs or leagues or competitions or FIFAs and UEFAs with a proposal, with a document, with ideas, or with a benchmark, with something that could work for the sports organization to differentiate yourself. So I believe that taking the initiative is key, because we are no longer seeing so many, for instance, positions that are like the formal and traditional ones, but we are seeing how sports property, they need to solve problems. If they want to go into esports, how they do it. If they want to contact with the next generations through TikTok, how do you do it? I think it's about opportunities and solving problems, and we are shifting towards this day-to-day.
Really interesting discussion. So yeah, thank you for your input, your question, Lorenzo, and this type of conversation really, I think, is what provides a lot of value, because here we are sharing experiences, insight, tips based on the different paths that we've taken, but that I'm sure that some of you listening tonight can also identify with. Now we have another question here, and I missed it before, so sorry, Naivedia. I just had your question now, and she said, any suggestions for non-Europeans working within the football industry? So Andrei, perhaps we can talk about this. Maybe we can start from a volunteering standpoint. What sort of norms does UEFA have when it comes to accepting volunteers from other countries, for different events?
It's an interesting discussion, because it's up to the LOS team from each city that is organizing. For example, in Bucharest, we decided to accept people from all over the world. And as a result, we had applications from everywhere, pretty much. And I think this is a really good starting point, like to be involved in a major tournament and to see how it's organized, and to understand a little bit about the whole concept behind major sport events organized by FIFA and UEFA. Will definitely really help you. It will shape your thinking, your way of thinking, and it will put you in a much better place for getting a future job in the sector. And from my own experience, I come from a country which doesn't have a major history in sports business, and at the moment it might be a little bit difficult, or at least it used to be a lot more difficult when I started to be interested and tried to get into it. Now it gets better and better, as it happens everywhere, I think. But it was quite hard and maybe even impossible to volunteer. Sorry, not to volunteer, to find a job in the industry in my country. So I think it comes again to that thing, to be proactive, try to find any opportunities that you can find. I think it's also really, really important to remember that I think everybody needs help everywhere. We need help in our volunteer management team, and as a result, we have a team of long-term volunteers that come and help us when we need their support. And in all my previous roles, we could use the help of interns, we could use the help of volunteers. So I think sometimes it might be in your the ball might be in your court to anticipate that people need help and propose it to them, and they might take it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And to add to what Andrei was saying, I would say that if you're a non-European, Naivedia, a couple of things that you can think about is, if you are in your home country, that's probably a good way to start. So before trying to make the jump to, say, a European or an EU country where you may not have the official papers, a good way to start is in your home country, to start trying to gain that experience. And even though it may not be as Andrei was saying, some countries are have less opportunities for sport than others. But there's always, as we were talking about before, there's always organizations that will need professionals, that will need resources, and if you come to them and deliver them a solution, that could be a way to open the door, and then that can be a stepping stone to then move on to, say, working in Europe. Another avenue is, of course, going to study in one of these countries, because many times these programs provide opportunities to network, as we were just talking before, or internships, or opportunities to connect with people, and that you never know, that can lead to something that again, it all comes down to a couple of things, right? It comes down to adding value to the market. So if you're able to add value to the market, you're going to become a valuable asset no matter where you're based. Obviously, if you don't have the the paperwork to work at an EU country, that may be more of a challenge at the beginning. But that doesn't mean that can stop you. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, I'm not a European, and I've been living in Barcelona for about 12 years. And initially, when I first got here, it wasn't as easy. But eventually, you find a way, and if you continue to look for your path, things open up, and opportunities come about. So that's, I guess, what we could add on that perspective, Navedia. So thank you for your question. We're coming now to the top of the hour, so probably it's a good moment to begin wrapping up, unless we have any final questions. So if you have a question, so actually we have a question here from Peter. Okay, so he says, how do you volunteer when you don't and can't speak the language of the tournament organizer?
Again, I can speak from my own experience here in Bucharest, being part of the volunteer management team. We have some roles where we can integrate people, volunteers, with people from the local country. For example, obviously not a lot of people in the world speak Romanian other than Romanians, and that doesn't stop us to recruit international volunteers. For example, in the media operations team, there is a quite big group, and we will definitely have Romanian people who speak English, who can help foreign people to fit quite well inside the team. And at the same time, we will have the UEFA managers that will speak English, and we will have journalists coming from all over the world. And of course, they will be in a really good position, and I think they will have a fantastic experience. I think the same story can transfer to the accreditations team. Maybe I was part of the accreditations team in Nice for the females World Cup, and I had colleagues in my team who were not French speakers, or they had really basic knowledge of French, and their whole communications were in English, and that didn't stop them to volunteer. And I think they had a quite good experience as volunteers. As a result, they want to come again to Europe and volunteer for Euro 2020.
If I would like to add that what I've seen among top professionals in these big events is that they speak many languages. I think that a very valuable asset within this international background is to learn languages, because they connect people from all over the world. So this is something that I have seen a pattern from top executives. And as I'm seeing that there are many questions regarding the international background, I just would like to add that make your difference your asset, your strength. I mean, if you come from a different country, make it your strength. If you speak a language that is not spoken there, try to link and to bridge opportunities with your home country, for instance. And I think that it's also an opportunity. For instance, Lorenzo, he's from Italy. If he went to work to the US, for instance, he could try to bring best practices from Italy sports to United States. So I think that we should always see the different assets that we have as strengths and try to leverage them in these international backgrounds. And languages are very important. And I think that this is something, for instance, I personally am working on it, and it's something that I strongly recommend as well.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. I think we have Naivedia. Naivedia, I saw that you just come back on, so let's try and see if we can get a little bit more from your information and your background before we wrap things up. So I'm going to unmute your microphone, and hopefully you can hear us, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about yourself. So let's give it a shot. Can you hear us, Naivedia?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about you.
Oh yeah, so first of all, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I had spoken to Diego Valdez when I was first in India, because I was unsure of the course. I wanted to choose it. And I'm following Hasbi Bose because I think emailed you regarding the women's football, because I was following I'm working with Footers, which is a digital marketing company in Sevilla, and we work for the second and third division of football here. So I was interested in Iberdrola League, and I had mentioned something to Javi as well. Of course, I follow everyone on LinkedIn. Well, thank you, and thank you, Andre, for your time as well. Yeah, so come to the question. The thing is, I've been 1 year in Spain, more or less. I got an opportunity to work for this live streaming company within the digital marketing role, and so I wanted to take experience after my master's. I finished my MBA in from UCAM, and then I thought, okay, let me just take a year, understand the industry before jumping on to my next course or whatever. And I've sometimes tried applying to different organizations because usually UEFA and FIFA, they demand much more experience. It'll be 3, 4, 5. I don't think they're ready to immediately accept someone who's new or has 1 or 2 experience or 1 or 2 years of experience. And I wanted to know, as all of you are within the industry, how much does that experience play comparing with the knowledge that someone has? Because digital marketing is changing. It's not something that is static. You know, what you've done 6 months ago, maybe Google Analytics has developed, Facebook ads have gone. I'm just giving some terms, maybe. They're different terms, of course. So I would like input from all of you as you've been in the industry longer.
That's great. That's great to have you online and to hear more about your background. I'll turn it over to the guys. So Andre and then Xavi, if you wanted to tackle the question for Naivedia.
Sorry, I didn't get the last bit. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that based on what you've shared with us, we'll have Andre, Xavi, and then myself.
Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I will start. I think UEFA and FIFA are asking for experience because, especially when working for them and with them, it adds on a lot of pressure, I think, and a lot of problem solving that you need to demonstrate. And I think from my experience, I didn't reach that level in academia until I managed to practice it in the real world. And even if it's even if it's something new, I think it's still really important to be able to demonstrate that in a way or another. It might not be in exactly the field that you are working or the field that you want to work in, but you might be able to transfer these qualities from other previous experiences that you've had. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Naivedia. I would like to add that usually FIFA and UEFA, in my opinion, they look also for people who have experience and have collaborated with federations. Federations are organizations in countries that they act like small FIFA or UEFA entities. So they are kind of organizations that give you a background that UEFA and FIFA need, which is organizing competitions and setting up structures and also developing competitions. And from the digital side, I think that your question is very interesting. I think that knowledge, maybe the experience in the day-to-day give you the more tactical side of digital. For instance, how to run ads on Instagram, how to do Facebook ads, how to promote or how to deliver good content. But then the knowledge and also the education, it can give you a more strategical side, because then you can see how, for instance, the industry is shifting from followers or from awareness to engagement, that brands are looking for engagement in digital. So I think that both of them are complementary. Obviously, the experience is critical because you put your hands on the work and you learn a lot. But then education can help you to also to do networking and to enrich your strategy, which is very important in order to allocate your efforts, time and energy in the right way.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would add to both what Andrei and Xavi had said. I heard an analogy a while back ago referring to digital, and I think it's very much spot on. And it's it's sort of like saying that digital is moving so fast that it's like trying to change the tire of the car while the car is still moving. Well, that's exactly kind of what you've alluded to earlier, Nadia, that digital is moving at such a fast pace that it is important that those professionals that are opting for those types of roles, that they understand what are the trends, what's happening. And in fact, to that degree, that's one of the reasons why we've created these niche courses, because we understand that the industry requires these professionals with the formal knowledge, the skills, to be able to understand what's happening in the industry in order for them to be prepared and have the confidence to go out and have these types of conversations when the opportunities come about. Another point that we haven't touched upon too much, but I think it's important to highlight as well, is having the right mentor or mentors, because a lot of times we can focus on gaining that knowledge, obviously creating the network that we've talked about just now, and gaining the experience. But an area that perhaps is not as looked on as much is finding a mentor, finding someone who has done the work in the industry, who understands what the paths are, because that's going to help you accelerate and optimize where you want to direct your next step, right? So in your case, for example, you finished your master's degree. At this stage, you're looking what the next move could be. So an opportunity to speak to someone who could be a mentor or a team of mentors would be advisable as well, because then you have opportunities to bounce off more ideas and continue looking at where you want to be in the industry.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your great questions, and it's great to re-engage with you, because now that you've mentioned that we've been in contact before, it's great to know that you've already heard about us for a while. So great to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Well, with this, we can wrap things up for tonight. Well, we have Mustafa who's raised his flag once again. So Mustafa, we'll give you the final thoughts on this, and then with that we'll wrap things up. So if you are here, Mustafa, let me try and find you. Yes. Mustafa, I think you wanted to add something else, yeah?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a small question. I am based in Barcelona right now, and I'm working with my partner as a football agent. So we have a small company, it's just an online company. So I would like to ask you, is it good to add in my CV and my LinkedIn, or it will increase my opportunities to work with UEFA and FIFA? They might be in the selection process, or if someone look at my CV, when they see that I'm a co-founder or something like this, they will say, oh, so why does he want to work in FIFA or UEFA? That's it.
That's a good question.
Okay. I love this question. I think that in the industry where we are going, I mean, CV is important, and also for sports properties to see where we have worked. But the critical and most essential aspect is what we have learned, what we have changed, what impact have we made. So in that sense, I believe that if you have started and you're an entrepreneur, you have started an agency, and you're making a change, and you're learning a lot, that can be far more useful and valuable for a stakeholder if maybe you have been at a bigger company but not having had a lot of opportunities to show your work. So because in the end, you maybe have studied or you have worked at a place, but then afterwards, if you don't really show what you have learned, then it's not very useful. So in this sense, I would encourage you to keep doing what you do and trying to learn and to make an impact. That's something that makes a change for organizations rather than logos.
Great point. And Andrei, did you want to add anything to Mustafa's point?
Not really. I definitely agree with what Xavi said, and I think if you're proud of what you're doing and what you've done with your business, with your agency, I think it's definitely something worth speaking about and including on your CV and on your resume.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mustafa, for the great questions and the great engagement tonight. I know we've run over by a few minutes. We intended to have this last an hour, and we've gone on. But I think the engagement has been so great, and having all the questions from the audience has been fantastic. And in fact, we had one more, I think, from Suharto. So I wouldn't want to leave you, Suharto, without the opportunity to ask your question. So I'm going to unmute your microphone, and hopefully we can hear you. So, Suharto, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. I think I had 3 questions, but listening to the discussion of the previous questions, it was really nice to get an idea of how they would pan out. But just wanted to ask you, Andrei, that if you're working with FIFA or UEFA, what would be the basic role of sports administrators in those organizations?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I got the question right. Are you asking what's the basically lowest role in the UEFA and FIFA team structure, or is it right?
No.
Okay.
Basically, like sports administrators, people who generally look to the day-to-day running activity of the organization or the governing body. So, like, it would be little bit towards the business and also little bit towards, for example, if we are working with a soccer club, it would be the running of the club too. So, in that way, if someone wants to work for a governing body, then how can, what would be the role for that person be?
I think there are a lot of ways to get in, and I think one of the things FIFA and UEFA are doing really well is structuring the work of their teams. And because everything is really structured and everyone has really detailed tasks they need to look after, everything is going seamless or nearly seamless every time. And that's why major tournaments as well are spread in 24 departments, 24 areas, and I think that's reflected also by the internal organization of UEFA and FIFA. And I think because of that, there is a way in for everyone. And I think on the administration avenue, to call it like this, you'd probably find different options depending on what do you want to do and who do you want to work with. And yeah, it's really impressive to see how detailed everything is. And I think, as I said, there is a role for everyone in the equation.
Right.
Just to add to what Andrei said, which is I think very important, and specifically from the events management side, on the day-to-day, and in my opinion, what they do is to grow football all over the world with their all over the world in the case of FIFA, and in Europe in the case of UEFA. They have the different federations, which they call the member associations, and what they do is try to develop their football from all sides, in terms of business, in terms of also structure, logistics, the sports side. And what they do, they have different activities, and they run seminars. They try to push the competition with investment. They go there and see what can be improved. They try to connect them to leverage benchmark practices among them. So they're like the father of football, and they watch their federations, their member associations, and they take care of them in order that they can grow their football level and their competitions, so then clubs can have a better performance.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Suhartos. Thank you for your question. It's great to have you form part of the webinar tonight. So thank you
Thank you so much.
for taking part tonight.
Yeah, it was really nice listening to all of you experts giving your view on the industry, and it would help students like us to move our careers ahead. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your input, Suharto. Thank you for being here tonight. And in fact, it's a good segue to our wrap up because we like to call our community a family, the SBI family. And perhaps I'll turn it over to Xavi to tell us more about what this actually means, being part of the SBI family, Xavi.
Sure, Diego. Just to add a couple of details before we wrap up, the SBI family we have more than 1,000 students from more than 80 countries. So it's a very global family, and in the end, it's planting seeds that can develop into projects, collaborations, contacts, and in the end, it's a tribe where we love sports business. So in this sense, it's very valuable. One of the main assets of SBI, this opportunity of connecting people, as also Andrei mentioned, connecting to Marios in London. And just wanted to add an experience that happened recently. I had the opportunity to go with the SBI team with Diego to Saudi Arabia to deliver a sports investment course in Riyadh, there in Saudi Arabia, for the league and the clubs. And there we found SBI students. They were very engaged, very connected with SBI, and this is something that I think it's a challenge. It's very difficult to do, and SBI does it because going to Saudi Arabia and finding engaged students with the brand and also with the community is very valuable, and it speaks for itself. So I think this is the true value of SBI, that at the moment that we engaged, that we became part of webinars, of courses, of opportunities, of events, we are also being part of something valuable and something big, which is the SBI family.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really excited about this subject because that's one of the reasons why SBI sort of was born, right? We always thought about how could we add value to those that want to start a career in the business side of football. How could we deliver programs that not just provided the knowledge, but also gave our students an opportunity to get ahead, like we were talking about before, not just with the knowledge, but through those contacts, having the mentorship, providing that experience. And we're happy to say that, today this SBI family is really that, a family that is engaged. And, what better way to show this than with Andrei, who's a former SBI student, and now here he is working for Euro 2020 and having worked for the FIFA World Cup before. So at this stage, what I'll do as well is I'll turn it over to Andrei, because we'd like to thank you, Andrei, for your presence tonight. We are super happy to have you as part of the SBI family, and very excited to see what's next for your career path as you continue to grow. And I know this project that Euro 2020 in Bucharest for you is a big challenge, and it's a lot of work, but I know that you're doing a fantastic job, and we're very excited to see what when that tournament comes up in next summer. So thank you once again, Andrei, for being here tonight.
Thanks a lot, guys. It was really nice to speak to you as always, and thanks to all the participants. The questions were really, really great, and I think and I actually hope that we managed to help people that are trying to make a shift in their career or just trying to enter the sport industry with what we've discussed tonight. And I'm sure that's mainly because of the great questions that we had in the crowd. And as I said, it's a great privilege to be part of the SBI family. And since I joined, it was a big asset for me, and it was something that pushed me in my career at different stages, and it's always made the difference. So thanks a lot to you guys, and we'll definitely keep in touch, all of us.
Absolutely. And Xavi, also, your input is always great and very valuable. So thank you for co-moderating the session tonight with Andrei. Any final words on your end?
Thank you everyone that has attended. I think that it was a very interesting session with your input, Diego, particularly the input and insights from Andrei and his experience at UEFA and FIFA events. I really hope this has been useful for everyone. Thank you also very much for your participation. I think that this is what it creates value. Do not hesitate to contact us, to reach us on social media for any doubt or suggestion or any thing that you would like to share. I mean, we are here for you. It's been a privilege. We have had fun, and I think that this is why we do it. And thank you for being here again.
That's it. Thanks to everybody who joined tonight for your great questions, for your participation, for this interactive session where we were able to have such a great discussion and get to know you a little bit better from the audience. So thanks to all of you. As Xavi mentioned, there's our contact information on screen for the SBI team. If you want to get in touch with Andrei, he's on LinkedIn, so you can always reach out to him as well. And finally, to say thank you, because you are the community. You are the ones who attended tonight. You are the ones who posed the great questions. And as Xavi and Andrei said, hopefully we've delivered value by providing some additional insight. But if you want more information and you'd like to discuss your career opportunities in football, get in touch with us. Let us know. We'd be happy to have a conversation and just know where you're at and where you want to be. And maybe we can help out with one